Welcome back to Money Matters. I'm Emily Johnson, joined by DCrowell, and we were just discussing autocracy, the rise of autocracy. I'm really feeling like I'm in an, I really like Ayn Rand, or I guess Ayn Rand. I really like that. I'm feeling like I'm sort of in an objectivist show now, not as much an economics and money show, but I'm enjoying it.
It has policy consequences. So these grand concepts, and I said I'm better in any case when I'm talking about big generalities than when I'm talking about specifics, but it does have specific policy consequences. You just mentioned Ayn Rand. That's a dystopic vision. That's the opposite of utopia. That's dystopia. That's the breakdown of society, the need for the individual to rise up against a world that's gone awry.
I'm still looking for John Galt. I know he's out there somewhere.
A world that's gone awry. It's a very dark vision overall, and only one person can save it. That's behind that dystopic vision, a close cousin of that dystopic vision are autocracies of all kinds, because autocracies all operate on the premise that one singular individual can step forward and has the knowledge and the prescience to know what's good for the society as a whole. The fact that the one single individual may be motivated not by a vision but by personal greed, that's neither here nor there. The real issue here is that there is a power greater than the autocrats that run the individual countries, whether the autocrat is Putin, whether the autocrat is Ping in China, whether the autocrat is any one of the dystopic countries of South America that have gone badly awry at the moment. I mean, there are autocrats everywhere. Democratic institutions are in threat. The corporations are riding high. What does that mean? Well, it means in the United States, for example, our Congress, which is a sort of disempowered body for 8-10 years now, unable to sort of
get out of their own way.
They have things that they like to do, and the corporations will allow certain things. Now,
it's an interesting perspective.
It is an interesting perspective, but let's think about actual policy. Let's think about something that everybody wants, which is infrastructure projects. Badly needed, definitely good net for the economy, good for jobs growth.
But they get caught in the extra fat in every single bill that's there, and so nothing happens, because in order for an infrastructure bill to pass, there would be some other fat that would be ladled into it.
Where is the money going to come from? Where's the money going to come from? So one of the interesting answers that our corporate overlords propose is, well, we've got a solution for you. You don't have to come up with the money. We'll come up with the money off balance sheet. Off balance sheet. So we'll own the roads, we'll own the bridges, and we'll charge you tolls for driving over them.
Which is not much different than what we've been discussing here locally when it comes to housing, affordable housing. Can we look at public-private partnerships, because our government can't afford to do that here locally either. So where's the cash going to come from? Private sector.
So if the bridge, if the Cross Island Expressway and Bridge was owned by a corporation, that corporation would be free over time to have its way, to increase tolls, decrease tolls.
Allow only SUVs to go over.
Allow only SUVs, to perhaps have an immigration test as to who gets to drive over the bridge and not over the bridge. In other words, it owns it, therefore it has its way. The alternative route is for the locality to float a bond, collect its own tolls, pay off the bond, and ultimately there is no fee for the use of that road.
Which should be a growing market, and it's just not. I mean, with these interest rates where they are, and with the amount of cash that's sitting on the sidelines, and with the desire for fixed interest rate, fixed income type investments, there should be a massive growth in that, and there is just not.
There is not. This is where we come to the dysfunctional nature of our democratic institution. Within the parties, as Emily said earlier, within each of the parties there are segments which prevent these decisions from going forward. There's a segment within the Republican Party that simply won't allow additional debt to be incurred. So within the state legislature of South Carolina, so you bring it down, and then this starts to connect with articles that you've read in the newspaper. We just got an infrastructure bill passed for the first time in 20 years. The roads are falling apart. Year after year, Nikki Haley wanted an infrastructure bill. Big sections of the Republican Party, the dominant party, wanted an infrastructure bill, but they couldn't get it passed. Why couldn't they get it passed? Because there was a section of the Republican Party that were die-hard anti-debt. No, absolutely not. We're not passing an infrastructure bill unless we have a adjustment to the tax code.
Right. Well, see, that's what
so
that
they
was
held
my
it hostage. Yeah.
Right. That's what I would call fat. You can't make one decision without another, which I understand. I do.
Yeah.
I get the yin and the yang.
There's a yin and a yang to it, and what happens in the end is that you don't get the road.
You don't get anything. It's exactly what's going to happen in Britain now in their parliament. It's exactly what's happened with our federal government. You get nothing, and as a result, you have corporations that just continue to do what they're doing outside. Role. Exactly.
Yeah, and we all.
Financial institutions are a great example.
That's it. The corporations will step in to a vacuum. They will step into a void because a vacuum or a void represents an opportunity. It represents an economic opportunity. If there's a need for a road and the government simply can't get its act together for 20 years to provide that road, sooner or later a corporation's going to come along and supply the road somehow or other because it represents a real opportunity.
Exactly.
This is what's ultimately happening in our health system. When I'm reducing now to the big picture down to the small picture, what ultimately happens if we continue to have dysfunction, the need for health product, the need for health systems is an absolute need. Therefore, the messier and messier and messier the government gets and our legislature gets, and the less and less resolution of this crisis occurs, the more that the corporations will step up and provide singular answers. They didn't get elected, but they're going to end up creating public policy.
Right.
That's what's going to end up happening.
So as a result, you've seen our if we get back to our market and interest rates, market just says, great, nobody's going to do anything to get in our way. We're just going to keep going ahead and go sideways. You're seeing decent moves throughout the day, and then you're seeing some of that erased. You're not seeing any real blips in that fear index, which is something that we look at. You're not seeing any real divergence in. For a little while, we were concerned about looking at financials, seeing some financials start to dip. That's kind of stopped. That's usually an indicator of something negative to happen, and that's not continuing. We're not seeing interest rates, at least in my perspective, we don't see them move a whole lot on a day-to-day basis.
On my end, I had 116 opportunities pop up in our internal computer system. This is just for Beaufort County. 116 local customers who can advantageously refinance. All that needs to happen is for my staff to work over the weekend and late at night to get in touch with all of these people.
Right.
But that's 116 people in a 3-week period.
That's amazing.
Who can advantageously refinance. So it's rates from our point of view are low. The other piece that we've talked about for ages is that the continuum, this is not the way it's supposed to work, but the continuum between the equity market gently rising and bond prices gently rising. In other words, both markets are successful at the same time.
And not expecting...
It's continuing to be the case.
I mean, I don't know what you're hearing, but it seems that correlation should continue. If you listen to most analysts on both sides of that debate, it's,
Would you
concern
you short the bond market right
not at
now?
all.
Would you short
In
the
fact,
equity market right now?
Not at all. Exactly. There's more interest into the bond market now than there was in the last 3 to 4 years because of that.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. And on the way
So
over,
in other words, don't get out of. Just try not to get out, or get out of the way. Don't get in the way of that sort of growth.
Right. Now, it's a new world from an investment point of view, but it seems to be a stable new world. It seems to be a stable economic environment. So, very interesting.
Yes. So, this has been Money Matters, actually. I'm sorry we stopped looking at the timer. This has been Money Matters. Thank you very much for joining us this week. Please let us know if you have any ideas, comments, criticisms, concerns, thoughts, everything. We love hearing from you. Check us out on Facebook. Until next week, this has been Money Matters. Have a wonderful week.